Hey everyone, it's Foxkey and Team Real talk now. I have played Wriothesley a bit in Abyss and in the overworld since its release day, which should be about 3 to 5 days ago, as to when I began making this video, probably not anymore. And I think overall reception of him has generally been a little unfair actually, up until recently, where it's began to get a little bit better, thank God. Basically, this video is a compilation of content creator takes that I somewhat or completely disagree with. I'll explain my perspective for you, and I'll have some walkarounds, so let's get into it. Okay, so this take might sound right, but there's nuance to this topic that wasn't explained throughout the video, or at least it wasn't explained in the moment this was stated. The nuance is that there's actually not many healers that you're going to run with Wriothesley. Kokomi, for example, you're not running him. You're not running him with her. Even in freeze. Like, you can, but why? It's a little bit more acceptable now, because we haven't hit 4.2 yet. Leaks, for those who don't want to hear about them, you're going to be pulling on Fronin's banner. If you're going to skip, and you still want to play Wriothesley, I strongly advise against skipping, because you won't just get the premium Hydra support, you're also going to get Charlotte, who's very specifically designed to heal Wriothesley and transform his rotational sustainability. So Kokomi, Barbara, you basically won't use them. Who you will most likely use is Mika, Jean, Bennett of course, and then you get your less carry-oriented options like Baiju, Sayu, and Kuki. Baiju and Kuki being this way because, well, you'll be playing Hyperfridge, and Sayu because she has a couple of things that could make her work less good in specific scenarios, but otherwise she works the same way that Mika and Jean do. Now the real point of this list is that no matter what healer you choose out of these options, you'll basically always get your mandated 2 Gracious Rebukes per rotation. Keeping in mind this is at C0, because if you do get C1, which I'll talk about later, this point doesn't matter for you. You can choose any healer or even a shielder, go for it. Bottom line is, none of these healers can actually heal Wriothesley faster than he can damage himself, or faster than enemies can damage him. Even Bennett, because if you get hit by literally anything meaningful enough to warrant standing in this burst to begin with, you're getting your passive if it's off cooldown. For you non-Bennetts out there, their healing is paced to a level where you can damage yourself through the healing and still get your passive without actually losing a skill effect due to the added sustain. So tying it all together, its actual passive functionality doesn't dictate you stay at 60% health or under. You just have to touch it, and then you can heal above or below, or be at any HP really, and it doesn't remove it, and you just get infinite duration until you actually hit someone with it, making it a lot easier to trigger than it might initially seem. And also, you can do Wriothesley's real best combo, and just don't hit anyone, it's that easy. This is actually very true. Wriothesley does have a weird grey space, that's my name for it, in his animation, where his Ito passive will randomly decide to not work at all. My actual problem with this take is that each mainstream content creator I've seen state this, for example Xiox, who also mentioned this issue, has not provided any findings for how to work around it, which I will do for you now. Alright, hey everyone, off-script Foxkey here. So, it's time to walk you through Wriothesley's wacky N2 and how it works. So basically, content creators will tell you, basically 100% of the time in every guide, that you can't, or at least that it's inconsistent to do N2 cancels because you're just going to get this more than often, where it just doesn't work very often. But as you see, you can get it. It's just a little inconsistent, and basically the rundown is, it's actually only inconsistent in the middle of the animation when you're doing the N2. You can do 2 types of N2 cancels where you will segue very simply into the N3, and that is an early cancel or a late cancel. And the late cancel, I've only called it a late cancel because you don't have to like really gun the timing, but it's really, honestly, it honestly might be more worth doing than the early cancel. So basically, the early cancel, just for purpose, is where you cancel, where you dash cancel or E-cancel, and you can do both, your N2 as the punch SFX pushes past Wriothesley's head. So if you look up at him like this, you'll see that the punch lands basically right in front of his face. So what you want to do is you want to dash into the FX and then you'll cancel into your N3, and that is the fastest possible timing you can do. And then the grey space starts in the middle of the animation where the cancel won't work, and then you can do the late cancel, which is much easier and has a much more recognizable visual cue. So basically, after Wriothesley's N2, he'll start idling, where he'll drop his arms down like that, and the arm that isn't punching, his right arm from the back, front arm from the left, as soon as that starts dropping downwards, you can dash or E-cancel and it'll go into the N3. Very consistently, basically all the time. Works with the Z as well, like that. So yeah, that's the late cancel. There's honestly a lot of leeway for it. So I recommend the late cancel, but if you want to do the early cancel, you can. And it might feel a little better to you. So, Mika users, real quick, because there's a thing about Mika that we need to clarify. When you have an attack speed buff, the early cancel becomes harder. Yeah, but the late cancel becomes easier. So, let me just refresh the attack speed buff because I skill issued. So, because the early part of the N2 will be a lot quicker, so that's harder, but the late cancel, you can basically start it whenever you want because the animation is fast enough so that the arm basically drops immediately. And obviously that'll all be affected by hit lag though, so make sure you keep that in mind. Alright, moving on to on script. Alright, the juice of this video is Wriothesley truly in need of a C1. In absolute shambles without it.
No, you're wrong. You have said something that is not factual.
I will say many other content creators are right about his Constellation being so goddamn good, but it's not for the reasons you've been told. Let's break down the effects, shall we? You'll get your Gracious Rebuke on every 5th normal attack combo hit, as well as the health gate at C0. And the cooldown for it overall is just halved. So that when the rebuke actually hits, the damage bonus effect is increased by 150% to 200%, so from the original 50 to 200. And it gives you 4 more seconds of duration on your skill effect once per charge attack. So, before we continue, see the duration bonus effect down there? Yeah, pretend it doesn't exist. The reality of that uptime bonus is that it will be longer than 4 seconds due to the hit lag you get from punching people. So you'll end up being in your skill for upwards of 15, maybe 16 seconds. By that time, at least one of your supports are likely gone, in most cases Kazuha or Bennett. Even if future supports have uptime to accommodate the damage bonus, your rotation will naturally be extended and you might actually lower your front-loaded damage. So you still lose something, not exactly the highlight of the Constellation. We need to talk about the healing of this Constellation real quick, because the general conception that I see floating around is that the upgraded frequency of Wriothesley's charge attack fixes his kit because you get more healing. And it's definitely not true. One thing you should already know if you're an advocate of this point is that he drains his HP very, very quickly when attacking an enemy. The reality of it being it's actually still too quick for the 30% heal every 2.5 seconds to overcompensate for the drain. Basically, you'll linger at a fixed percentage of HP. If you were at 80% when you started your combos, you will stay at 80% for the entire skill duration if you play perfectly. Obviously, I don't know how good you are at Genshin, but that also means that any damage you take is permanent damage, essentially. So you'll still run a healer, and it's here where I can reiterate everything I said in the first point, but I'm not going to do that. Just watch it again if you don't get how this ties together. And the actual benefit of this Constellation comes in the form of the straight damage increase you get to your charge attack, which is roughly a 14% increase overall across this whole rotation. It also changes your combo to exclusively N5C, since you actually have to do that to get the damage increase, otherwise you just won't gain as much. And that by itself is pretty good. Nothing spectacular, but definitely worth it if you want it. TLDR, what the Constellation actually does is increase your stamina efficiency in healers, since you don't have to spam charge attacks when you are kind of low on HP. It lets you run Layla to supplement the damage increase you already gain, because Layla is a good unit, no way. It doesn't completely remove your need for defensive utility, or overheal them in any way. If you want that, get C4. Whale. Hopefully this video has been informative to your outlook on Wriothesley, because these are the primary misconceptions I see amongst general communities and content creator material, so I thought I'd just do my part to clear up what I think I can before Verona comes out, which should add a lot more complexity to a huge part of the cast. Make sure your day is as good as it can be, and I will see you later.